In the Star Wars saga, George Lucas imagined a world where twin suns rose and fell in the horizon. Looks like his vision may not be so far-fetched. Astrophysicists say that Betelgeuse, I really don't know how to pronounce that. Betelgeuse. Betelgeuse. Betelgeuse sounds good to me because it reminds me of that movie. So we're calling it Betelgeuse. Okay. Astrophysicists say that Betelgeuse, the red supergiant that is the ninth brightest star in the sky, is losing mass, an indication of gravitational collapse. Brad Carter, a senior lecturer of physics at the University of Southern Queensland, explained to news.com.au that the star is essentially running out of the fuel at its core. This fuel keeps Betelgeuse shining and supported. When this fuel runs out, the star will literally collapse in upon itself, and it will do so very quickly, he said. The subsequent explosion will appear tens of millions of times brighter than the sun, meaning 24 hours of light on Earth. And then there's some continue to it, and he links to it. Again, I'm going to link to him so you can read and watch all these little videos and everything. Update. So here I am a couple hours after originally posting this story, watching a show on the History Channel called The Nostradamus Effect. And they are talking about the ancient Egyptians and their belief in a cyclical event. And lo and behold, what they said next blew me away. Orion again. You have to see for yourself. Start the video at 1 minute and 30 seconds, which I think I'm actually going to do for you. And let's see what happens.
They use them to create calendars, they use them to time, they use them in the desert for directions. They believed that these celestial bodies were deities, and to them it was the stars and the position of the sun that imposed and regulated events on the ground.
Some researchers believe the hieroglyphs warn of a cyclical event that the ancient Egyptians survived thousands of years ago. They theorize it was a catastrophic phenomenon triggered by the sun, so destructive that only a handful survived. Those who believe this theory say the clues begin with how the Egyptians used astronomy to understand their place in the cosmos. One constellation above all was central to their perception: Orion.
The reason the Egyptians were very focused on this constellation was because, apart from it being bright and attractive, it would rise at dawn just before the flood. To them, it was a reassuring sign because the Nile flood was on its way.
Ancient Egypt relied on the flooding Nile to power the agriculture it needed to survive. This led the Egyptians to link Orion with their god Osiris, who controlled...
Alright, so I'm going to stop at that point of the video. It goes on for it's a 10-minute video. And that was only 2 minutes and 36 into it. Plus I started it at 1 minute and 20. Anyway, and I saw that episode, by the way. So that's interesting, right? These pyramids pointing to Orion, this star, Planet X, Nibiru, whatever it is saying, hey, these people are saying Orion, look to Orion, look to Orion. That's all they want you to do, look to Orion. We also have an end date, 2012. 2012 and Orion, pay attention. Apparently that's what's going on here. So, he says, below are the two images showing the constellation of Orion, the location of Betelgeuse, and the image that has been blocked out by Google Sky. And, yeah, it shows the black part of Google's Sky. And that's really it. That's where he ends this article. So now I've got this old Planet X thing back in my mind again, saying, scratching my head. I kind of wrote it off a while back. Kept it in the back of my mind, never spoke about it really on YouTube or sent anybody anything about this, thing. Maybe I did 3 years ago to some friends or something to say, hey, check this out, while I was researching it, but I can't even remember, I don't know. But Now it's coming to play. And I do remember reading this article recently about this, this second sun thing, whatever, this little, once in a million event, that he was referring to. And of course, we'll probably see this 24 hours of daylight, possibly, if that thing blows up, that star, in 2012. Imagine that. So now I got to put that back on the radar for Dr. Doom to pay attention to. So just think about this. Let's forget about all the politics, all of the corrupt governments, the corrupt bankers, all that. Just forget about all of that. Let's pretend that none of that even exists. Fat chance, but let's just pretend it doesn't. And the only thing you have to worry about is this 2012 date, which apparently, looking around myself, seeing the flooding, seeing what's going on, to me is a clear indication something's up, and that 2012 date is most likely the date. I can't argue with anyone who would try to bet me and say, well, how much do you want to bet on December 21st, 2012, there's not going to be some big event. I can't say that there will or won't be. I really can't. I can tell you what I'm seeing right now and what I've seen building up over the last few years, and these earthquakes, like again, last year, 22 7.0 earthquakes or higher, that's record-breaking. Flooding that we've never seen before in that relative short amount of time. Sure, there's a once in 200-year flood that happens somewhere, but you don't have a once in 200 whatever years flood happen here, happen in China, happen in North Korea, happen in Brazil. All in a relatively small window of time. You also don't have a year where you have record-breaking cold like last year, and even in 2009 we had some too. Record-breaking cold and then record-breaking heat at the same year. In the United States last year, one state would have record-breaking cold, while simultaneously, the same time, another state is having record-breaking heat for that time of the year. Same time. One is getting snowed on and freezing, or maybe not, I don't know if it was snowing, but it was freezing, breaking records anyways. And then the other state, several states away or whatever, is actually experiencing heat. Record-breaking heat. You don't have all these things happening in a relatively same window of time. Now I've got this new article. I do recall reading the recent article about this thing out there that they call Beetlejuice or whatever the hell that is, or the Nemesis thing. And how they're saying that it would light up the Earth for 24 hours. Well, where have we heard about the Earth, staying lit up, or 3 days of light or 3 days of dark and all that stuff? Well, I know it's in some of the Bibles, versions, whatever. It goes beyond that again. It goes back more ancient than those things about this, it happens. So an interesting thing here would be if that planet does explode, then that means on this cycle, there's always a planet, always near Orion, that always explodes at this time. What I would venture and say is that the whole thing could be a cover story, and that the damn thing's not going to explode. They're just using that as a cover story to say, oh yeah, there's this big planet out there. It's only, we're so lucky this happens maybe a billion years and we're alive to witness this thing, this event. When in reality, it's not that. The light we see that stays on for 24 hours on Earth is actually whatever event or events coming from 2012, whether it's this thing passing by, lighting up the sky, lights up the Earth. I don't know. But I can assure you we're fixing to find out. And again, if you just take away all the politics and all that stuff and just say, well, this is what we're going to have to deal with. We're going to have to deal with this destroyer comet that the ancients called it. That was the name they gave it, the destroyer, the wrecker of worlds. That's an interesting name for some ancient people to give it. I wonder what they meant by that. Well, obvious. Look around you right now, what's happening, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse until I would assume 2013, end of 2012, and then slowly trickle off in 2014, slowly trickle off a little more in 2015, kind of like we built up to the 2012 date, and then maybe all hell breaks loose somewhat, I don't know, and then it doesn't just stop and go back to peace, it goes relatively the way it came in, it goes out, so it's climax and then slowly goes away, dealing with, catastrophe after it leaves for, 2 years or something, I don't know. So, that alone, that scenario alone, would pretty much be a wrecker of our own worlds, our own lives, not including the politics and all that stuff. So think about this. We have to deal with that crap too. Those Webot reports are looking pretty spiffy right about now, and what they are seeing in the future. So All I can say is keep your eye out, like he says, on the Orion constellation. Keep your eye out for news from NASA regarding some kind of new discovery that, we didn't know that was there, or there's this interesting thing that might happen in 2012, and it's all a cover story. And at the same time, yeah, we're going to get pissed off. We're going to be mad that we were lied to. We've been paying all these taxes. We've been struggling to keep ourselves just afloat. It'd be nice to have been way afloat and have extra money to buy extra food to survive some kind of big event, should a big event happen here shortly. And you're going to get pissed off and say, well, these guys knew it. They've got their fat salaries. They got their underground bunkers. They got all these things. And here we are, rotting on the surface of the earth, paying for them while struggling ourselves so that they get to go unscathed. You're going to get mad. People are going to, again, these revenge attacks and these detailed destroying of human lives in the higher political and banker level that the Webbot has talked about over the last several reports, some of them with great detail of specifically what happens to some of these people and their families and their houses. Man, I can see that happening. So, again, at the same time, you can't blame the government for wanting to hide something like this and just trying to create a similar story that at least pleases people's thoughts and mindsets that, oh, that's what that is. You know, an act of God, and that's that. It just came out of nowhere, when in reality, they knew about it from here since 1983. So you can't blame them, because what would people do if they realized that some kind of major destruction is going to happen? They knew, we all know we're not all going to die, but maybe a lot of people are going to die. Maybe it's just millions and millions and millions of people. Maybe 1 billion people. Who knows? And people are going to think, well, I might be one of those. I'm poor, I'm broke, I'm getting kicked out of my house, I'm doing this. Fuck that. I've got a year or two, before all hell breaks loose, I'm going out with a bang. And then their mindset is completely already lost before we even get there. And, all kinds of crazy people start coming out, shooting, killing, just turn the world upside down, anarchy. So you can't blame the government, really. I mean, you really can't blame them for not doing what they're doing, but at the same, it's like one of those, it's basically, it's government at its finest. All levels of government, all levels of banking, all levels of Wall Street cook the books. It is their basic business model, and they have to put stuff off balance sheet, let the auditing and everything else go by, let tax season go by, then put it back on the books, then transfer it off the books, because if they had to mark all that stuff to market, they'd all be bankrupt. If our government couldn't just write down a piece of paper and say, oh, we've got a $14 trillion deficit, we would be bankrupt. Right? You and I can't do that. But they do, and that's how they work. So the motto in saying of government is, don't get caught, bozo. If you're the governor, if you're a congressman, if you're a senator, if you're whatever, you're going to cook your books, you're going to do corruption, don't get caught. So, we know this problem exists in the solar system. It's going to wreak havoc. Don't get caught by the people telling them the truth, or else the game is up. And if the game is up, we're done. And what they don't realize is the game is going to be up. And again, this goes back to the Mayan calendar, the Mayan people who said, at the end of this cycle, there will be a cleansing of the earth and then a renewal period. And it'll be peaceful for a while after that. It'll be a whole new way of doing things. Out with the old ways, in with the new, wash it clean, you won't even recognize it kind of thing. Just completely different. Like taking something, just shaking it upside down and letting it all dump out. And then say, okay, pick up the pieces and start over. That's what's going to happen. I mean, look what the hell happened in Egypt today. Man, they're like buildings on fire, police vehicles on fire. I mean, I was watching it all day. I had it basically, well, at least playing on my speakers at work, for the most part, and just listening to what was going on over there. And it's like a full-scale civil war going on over there, man. Again, Webbot, global revolution. And Yemen started rising. You got Tunisia, or however you say that. This is just the beginning. It's going to be here. It will take place in this country. Precisely when is debatable. I can safely say soon. A year, 2 years, 5 months, next month. It could happen. Anytime. Stuff like that. Just like in Egypt. Who the hell knew that this would just blow up today or in the next few days? A bunch of people, I don't know if it started on Twitter or whatever happened, but it just went out like wildfire. And it just happens. So, anyways, I'm going to leave you with that. And if I, of course, find anything new, interesting, or you find anything new or interesting about NASA discoveries or anything, let me know. Send me a link. Most of the time, I probably will have already known because I'm checking all these sites that have millions of people, finding these things and posting them, which we all probably visit. But either way, I don't care. Send me some information if you got something